You're tuned into the Spot Up Pod, the official podcast of the Spot Up Shot newsletter. I'm your host, Paul Garcia. In today's episode, reviewing the Spurs' last 4 games against the Pelicans, Rockets, Grizzlies, and Thunder. Diving into Stephon Castle's rookie season so far. Looking through some news and notes on Chris Paul and Bismack Biyombo. And then previewing the upcoming 3 games for the Spurs this upcoming week. How's it going, everyone? It's been about a week since I last recorded an episode, so I want to begin by going through a brief review of the Spurs' last 4 games from this past week. So let's go to Tuesday. The Spurs are still on the rodeo road trip. They are on the road at New Orleans playing the Pelicans. The Pels were favored by 3 in this game. The Spurs started off really well in this game. They were up by 19 points early in the first half. The game went down to crunch time, and then New Orleans pulled away there in crunch time, winning by 6 points. Devin Vassell had a bounce-back game because, as I had mentioned last week's episode, he was only averaging about 8 points per game post-All-Star break, so he ends up with 20 points on the night to lead the Spurs. Harrison Barnes also added 15 points. Bismack Biyombo recorded a double-double with points and rebounds. Then De'Aaron Fox, 15 points. And in this game, Stephon Castle didn't get as many minutes, just 12 minutes in a brief stint out on the court. Then on Wednesday, the Spurs are still on the rodeo road trip. They are on the second out of a back-to-back, traveling to Houston to play the Rockets. The Rockets, I do want to say, were favored by 8 points. They took an early 11-point lead early in the game, and then basically that lead just kind of ballooned throughout the remainder of the game where it got as high as 28 points. The Spurs pulled most of their starters there in most of the fourth quarter. The reserves for the Spurs did play pretty well and actually got it to a more respectable loss of losing by just 12 points. Keldon Johnson and Stephon Castle were the leading scorers for the Spurs on this night with 22 points each off the bench. The Spurs had a tough time shooting the 3-ball, making just a season-low 7 3-pointers in this game against the Rockets. Then on Saturday, the Spurs are still on the road. Their final game of the rodeo road trip. They are on the road at Memphis. The Grizzlies were without John Moran and Desmond Bane. However, they were still favored by 5.5 points. The Spurs started off really well in this game, but they led by as many as 22 points in the first half. But then the Grizzlies started to make their comeback in the second half. It went all the way down to crunch time. And then with 23.4 seconds left, De'Aaron Fox, the Spurs were trying to get him the ball. They got the ball to Fox. The Grizzlies knew that Fox wanted the last shot, so they sent a double team toward him. He kicks out to Devin Vassell. Then he goes back for the ball, and Vassell passes the ball back to Fox. The Grizzlies again try to trap him, but he kind of evades their trap. He goes to his left, has rookie Jalen Wells guarding him, and then Fox uses a really good step-back jumper from pull-up from about 20 feet, and he sinks the jumper to help the Spurs win the game by 2 points. After the game, Fox said how he's just more comfortable in those moments. For some reason, when the game is on the line, he just really excels there. And we saw that because he was shooting 6 of 16 from the floor going into that final shot, and yet he still comes up with that crucial shot. Vassell had another good game with 20 points in the starting lineup. Fox, 20 points as well. Rookie Stephon Castle came off the bench with 24 points to lead the team in scoring. And then Jeremy Sohan had a strong game with 18 points and Keldon Johnson 15 points. And the Spurs, this was one of their first games where they really got the 3-ball to finally go in at an effective accuracy percentage. They made 39% of their threes in this game against Memphis on Saturday. Then on Sunday, the Spurs are back home in the Frost Bank Center for the first time since February 1st. Their rodeo road trip had finally ended, and so now they were hosting the best team of the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder, I will say, were favored by 12.5 points, but the Spurs did a great job of keeping pace with them for about 3 quarters. They were kind of going back and forth with OKC for those first 3 quarters. Then in the fourth, the Thunder started to pull away. They used a 32-16 run within about 8 minutes to basically blow open the game and lead by as many as 19 points. A lot of that damage was due to Jalen Williams, who had a career high 41 points on the night. And so the Spurs ended up losing by 14 points, 146-132. However, it was a historic shooting night for the Spurs in this first half, which is why they were able to keep pace with the Thunder. They started off by making a franchise record 10 threes in the first quarter. Then by halftime, they had already made 16 3-pointers, which was also a franchise high in a half. However, in the second half, OKC's defense did tighten up. They didn't allow any other wide open threes for the remainder of that third quarter, and the Spurs ended up shooting 0 of 8 from 3 in the third quarter. Then in the fourth, the Spurs still couldn't get a 3 to fall, and basically their last 2 threes that came out in the game were from the reserve players, Malachi Branham and Sandro Mamukelashvili, once both coaching staffs had emptied their benches by that point. Stephon Castle had another good night here with 32 points off the bench, almost passing his career high of 33 points that he scored recently against Charlotte. He also finishes with a career high 4 made threes in the first half. He ends up leading the team with 14 paint points, and then he also made a team high 4 free throws, and he was active on the glass with 8 rebounds, including 4 offensive boards. De'Aaron Fox ends up with 20 points on the night. Jeremy Sohan, 17 points off the bench, and then Vassell, 15 points. But something that Fox basically reiterated was that, if you score 132 points, you shoot well from the floor, you kind of handle your turnovers, and most nights that's going to be a win. But, when you almost allow 150 on defense, which is what Fox said the Spurs did, it's hard to win those games. So the Spurs ended up losing despite the really good offensive night for them because of their defense, where OKC got a lot of points inside at an efficient rate. They got to the free throw line, and they also got points from the three-point line. So last week, my prediction was that the Spurs would go 1-3. They did go 1-3. However, the opponents that they beat were different. I thought they would beat the Pelicans, but instead they beat the Grizzlies, who I didn't think they would beat Memphis, but they did beat Memphis. So again, they went 1-3. Vegas had said they were going to go 0-4, so they actually surpassed those expectations by going 1-3. And like I've mentioned before, without Wemby now, the Spurs are going to probably be underdogs in almost every game left this season, except for the teams that might have a worse record than they do on those specific nights. So now through 59 games of the season, with just 23 games left, the Spurs are 25-34. Again, that play-in race is really slipping away from them, but the more they lose, their lottery odds do improve, though. All right, so for this main topic, I really want to just take a look at how Stephon Castle is doing so far through his rookie year, looking at more so an observations plus a stats perspective. Just because he's coming off 3 really good games scoring the basketball, where he ended up with 32 points against the Thunder. He also had 20 plus points in the other 2 games against the Rockets and against the Grizzlies. So right now, according to Vegas, different gambling sites, Castle is the favorite as of early March to win Rookie of the Year. So again, he's in the lead there to be the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. And let's first talk about his offense, how he's doing on the offensive end, using a bunch of different numbers and observations. So according to Cleaning the Glass, whenever Castle was on the floor, the Spurs are outscoring their opponents by 1.3 points per 100 possessions, which is in the 60th percentile. So again, above league average, and he's a positive whenever the Spurs are out on the floor. According to Cleaning the Glass, Castle's usage is at 25%, which is in the 75th percentile amongst combo guards. So again, right now he's getting, despite being a rookie, he's getting a heavy share of the offense for the Spurs, getting to create for himself and others. Players that have that are combo guards that have a similar usage percentage in the NBA are Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers, Zach LaVine of the Sacramento Kings, and then Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets. Again, just to give you a little bit of context of the kind of workload that Castle has on the offensive end, that is similar to some of the players in the league. And I know that Castle, though, in his case, he was mainly starting for a big chunk of the season, but then once the Spurs added De'Aaron Fox, he ended up going to the bench. And one good thing is that, and I'm going to talk about in a little bit, is that we have seen him stay aggressive and kind of keep his handle on the offense, despite having that new role off the bench. The Spurs are still letting him kind of experiment, trying to learn the NBA level. Being early on in the season, they were allowing a little bit more mistakes and for him to recover. Lately, though, we have seen some games where he's only played like 12 minutes, 13 minutes if he's not having a good first half of basketball. We do know that Castle is really good at driving the ball. He's averaging 7.8 drives per game for the Spurs. That is now second on the Spurs behind only De'Aaron Fox. We do want to say, though, that Castle was actually first in drives per game before the Spurs did add Fox. And he's also averaging 25 minutes per game. And again, the minutes are the big thing, where when he was a starter for most of the season, he was getting, close to like 27 to like 30 minutes a night. But then as a bench player, with the team still trying to win games, if he's not having a good half, like I mentioned, the coaching staff might cut his minutes a little shorter than usual. And so, he really has to be impactful in his first few minutes out there on the court to get those minutes. And we have seen these last 3 games where he's getting, almost 30 minutes a night. And the last 3 games where he's scoring over 20 plus points per game and crashing the glass. So let's first begin by looking at his scoring. And what I did was before, after crunching some of these numbers and collecting them, I also went back and read my scouting report from back in April and May. And I just kind of wanted to see, what elements of Castle's college game at UConn are now translating to the NBA. So I'm going to be reading some, NBA stats plus college stats and kind of just talking about where I see some similarities. So scoring the ball first. He's averaging 13.2 points per game, which is 4th on the Spurs behind only Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, and Devin Vassell, and he's just barely a few points shy of Vassell, who's averaging about 15, 16 points per game. He's also third on the team in getting to the free throw line the most. It's the players who get to the line the most are Wemby, Fox, and now Castle. And Castle's averaging 3.5 free throw attempts per game, despite being a rookie. Where that translates from the college game is that, at UConn, he was averaging about 11 points per game. So we do see a scoring increase here at the NBA level for him in his rookie year compared to college. But we do want to note, though, too, that he's getting a little bit more shots. However, the free throw volume is translating, where at UConn, he was averaging 3.2 free throws. And now here at the NBA level, he's averaging 3.5 free throw attempts. But that's pretty notable because at UConn, he was a starter. He got all his minutes usually every night. Here at the NBA level, he's having to shuffle between a starting lineup early in the season, then moving to a bench role, and then, like I mentioned, on some nights he doesn't get those guaranteed 20 minutes a night. He might just get under 20 minutes, despite how he's playing. And so he has remained aggressive and being able to be a player who can get to the free throw line. Speaking of how well Castle was able to get to the free throw line despite being just a rookie, here's a stat for you. According to the Cleaning the Glasses shooting fouls drawn percentage, Castle draws shooting fouls on 13.9% of his possessions, which is in the 92nd percentile amongst combo guards. Again, that's an elite percentage there, ranking, should I say, percentile, 92nd percentile, and he's only a rookie. So he's just learning the NBA game, learning how to absorb contact, learning how to draw fouls from the ref, get defenders to foul him on his drives and his attacks. And yet he's already showing some elite numbers here and being in the 92nd percentile. Whereas that's basically higher than Austin Reeves of the Lakers, who's a good guard at attacking the basket as well. And so that just shows you that in just year one, at being 19, 20 years old, Castle's already getting to the line, at a really good rate, drawing shooting fouls a number of times, and of course using his physicality, using his size, using his ability to absorb contact, to use his hesitation at times to draw on the defense and get them to foul him while putting up shots and getting some and ones at different times as well. So again, that's one thing that really sticks out for Castle as a rookie, is his ability to get there to the free throw line. When talking about Castle's games, scoring 20 or more points, after scoring 32 against the Thunder, he has now recorded 15 games with 20 or more points. So that's basically a quarter of his season. He scored 20 or more points, so 26% of his games this season. And like I mentioned, he had a career high 33 points against the Charlotte Hornets a few weeks ago, and then now he had 32 points against the Thunder. And what's notable here is that, early in the season, it was like in mid-January, I looked up the numbers. He had a 3-game stretch of scoring 20 plus points in 3 different games. However, he was a starter and getting a lot of minutes in those games. Now, though, he's learned to bring that aggressive style of attacking the basket, making some threes, getting to the free throw line. He's bringing that same mentality and that attacking force as a bench player, where he's now recorded his 2 highest scoring games of his career as a bench player. And not only that, these last 3 games when he scored 20 plus, it's been in a bench role. So again, that's something that's interesting. That was something he was having trouble with early in the season, was translating what he was doing as a starter and bringing it to his bench role. But now that he's, he knows he's coming off the bench probably for the rest of the season with Fox here and Chris Paul staying on the team. And so he's just, continue to bring that level of aggression. And like I mentioned, if he's playing pretty well early on in the first half, he's going to get good minutes in the second half, is what the coaching staff is showing. When shooting the ball, we do see that Castle takes about 11 shots per game, shooting 42% from the floor for the season. 3.9 three-point attempts, 28% from outside, and then 73% from the free throw line. The 3-point number is interesting because that's something that I was interested in seeing is, where was he at the college level and then moving on to the NBA level. So he's actually improved compared to the college level, considering that the college 3 is basically like a deep 2 at the NBA level. It's like a long 2-point jumper. And now this line at the NBA level is even further, 23.9 feet away from above the arc and 22 feet at the corners. However, Castle usually takes his 3-point shots about a foot or 2 off the 3-point line. So really recording like 34 to 36 foot 3-point attempts. So again, he's shooting 2% better than what he was at college, or about 1% better. And again, he's had stretches though during the season we've seen where he can put together some good shooting nights from 3, even though we know that's an area that he's going to continue to have to focus on, because that is an area where the defense does leave him wide open. When looking at his shot selection, how it translates from college to the NBA, we do see that he's doing this still, where he's really good about attacking on the inside. So at the college level, 74% of his shots were coming from 2-point range and 26% from 3. We see here at the NBA level that 42% of his shots come at the rim, which is in the 92nd percentile amongst combo guards. So again, very elite in terms of choosing shots there at the rim or getting to the rim and taking shots there. And then 28% of them are coming from mid-range, which is about 70% of his shots come on twos. And then 30% of his shots come from three, which is basically showing, again, a 4% increase from his college shooting selection from three compared to the NBA level, where he's now shooting 30% of his attempts from three. And then, like I said, we have seen some gradual progression in his three-point shot so far this season, where, basically in most months he's taking about 4 threes per game. So he's kind of kept it very steady, where he's taking about four. This is basically a three per quarter. And I put his accuracy percentages in 2-month formats. So in October, November, when we combine those 2 months, Castle was shooting about 29% from three. Then in December and January, when we combined those 2 months, his percentage went down a little bit to 25%. However, lately in February and the early days of March, his number is up to 32.8%. So again, we have seen a gradual progression for him from his 3-point shot. And one thing he's mentioned is about how the coaching staff, his teammates, if they're wide open threes, they want him to still take those shots. And so he's been very comfortable about taking those shots. He just said for him, it's more about a mentality things in terms of not focusing on makes and misses and just, again, continuing to take the shot if it's there, if the defense is kind of giving him that shot and it's I guess like it's at a good time in the shot clock, he's going to continue to take that shot. And so again, we have seen that he has picked up his percentage to 33%. And there was a stretch there, I think it was in February or late January, he was shooting really well, almost close to 40% from three. But again, the numbers kind of evened out here, where he's at 33% between February and March. Passing the ball, we also see this skill for Castle kind of moving into the NBA level, where at college he was averaging 2.9 assists. Now in the NBA, that number has gone up to 3.5 assists. And again, considering that he's on a bench role right now, he's kind of had a different roles throughout the season. Plus, he's basically been a combo guard because he's been out on the floor with different point guards as well, like De'Aaron Fox right now, like with Chris Paul for most of the season, plus playing alongside Trey Jones at different times before he got traded. So again, he's being out on the floor with a player like Devin Vassell too, who has a higher usage as well out on the floor. So again, he's kept his numbers up, passing the ball and recording his assists with 3.5 assists. He's shown different kind of passing elements of his game, where he can be on the weak side and be on the strong side and throw a one-handed dart pass to the corner to a shooter. He's able to find different players on alley-oops. He found Wemby throughout the season on alley-oops, Charles Bassey, Jeremy Sohan, different players on alley-oops. He can move the ball with the DHO action, run the pick and roll, all different kinds of sets is how he's shown that he's comfortable moving the ball. And then for his turnovers, those aren't too high either, considering he's learning a new level of basketball at the most elite level you can, the NBA, where in college he was at 1.5 turnovers per game, and right now at the NBA he's just at 1.9. So again, not too bad that he's only 0.4 more turnovers at the highest level of basketball, playing against a way better competition here at the NBA level. So again, his passing is kind of translating from college to the NBA level as well. And then defensively, so one thing we see is that the Spurs are better with him on the floor on defense. So whenever Castle is out on the floor, the Spurs are allowing 1.5 fewer points per 100 to the opponent, which is in the 67th percentile. So again, above league average for when he's out there on the floor defensively. One thing we do see though, you can look at different numbers, is that just by, this is more so an eye test observation. It's watch the matchups he's guarding every night. A lot of times, whether he's starting or coming off the bench, the Spurs are giving him very tough matchups. Some of the best perimeter players in the league. He like just against the Thunder on Sunday, he's guarding SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's one of the favorites for the MVP award. Against the Golden State Warriors, at different times he's guarded Stephen Curry. In the game against the Phoenix Suns about a week ago, he was guarding Devin Booker whenever he was out on the floor. So again, he gets some of the top players offensively, that are known for their scoring ability or creation ability, and he's getting the tough with those matchups. And one thing he does is he definitely uses his size, his physicality to stay with that player, whether on or off ball. Absorb some contact from bigs that are setting screens on him, being able to recover. And again, it takes a lot to kind of bump him off, because of his size out there on the floor. It's not as easy for teams for opponents to kind of shake him away on defense. He's able to kind of stay with them and get pretty good shot contest. And we see that they're in some of those numbers and observations. Rebounding the ball, this is one area that hasn't translated as well from the college. But again, there's bigger players out on the floor for most of the season. He's been sharing the floor with this player that's 7'6" in Wemby. So his numbers are at college. He was at 4.7 rebounds. Right now in the NBA, he's at 3.1 rebounds. However, he has started to pick up his rebounding stats here. Lately, he's been having some games with like 8 rebounds, 7 rebounds, 10 rebounds. And something Coach Mitch Johnson mentioned was that the coaching staff has challenged him to be a little bit more aggressive there on the boards. And so we have seen that with an uptick in his numbers. Plus, like I mentioned, against the Thunder, he ended up with 4 offensive rebounds and got some of those for putbacks. And that was something I noted about when I wrote about him in college in his scouting report, was that he was able to attack the offensive glass at different times because teams were leaving him open from outside. So if he would cut and he didn't get the ball initially, he was able to be an extra body down there to kind of crash the glass and help out UConn that way. And that's something that he's showing he's doing for the Spurs right now in this latest stretch, where he's really picked up his rebounding numbers since about late January. His steals have also stayed pretty similar between college and the NBA, where at UConn he was at 0.8 steals per game. Right now at the NBA level, he's at 0.9 steals. So again, kind of doing what he does on steal wise, almost a steal per game. And then one of the stats we get from the NBA level is deflections, where he's averaging almost 2 deflections a game, 1.8 per game. One thing I've mentioned before here on the Spotted Pod and also in my writing is that we have seen, where we at least saw a big increase in his steals and deflections when De'Aaron Fox first got added, because Fox, wants the Spurs to be more, be more aggressive out on hounding ball handlers, really putting pressure on them. Since at the time, when he first joined the team, they had Wemby. Well, now obviously they don't have Wemby, so maybe I haven't looked at those numbers since Wemby went out. But again, when Wemby and Fox were out on the floor, Castle's steals and deflections numbers were definitely seeing a big boost when Victor's out there. So again, if once Victor gets fully healthy next year, you hope that Castle brings that same tenacious defense along with Fox out there on the wing. And then just last thing I wanted to mention was just kind of some of his characteristics I wrote about in his scouting report from April, May. Some of these different areas is something we've already seen here at the NBA level. So one thing I mentioned in the scouting report last year was size, just the size that he has on both ends of the floor. And that's something that's translated very well to the NBA, where on offense, like I mentioned, he drives in, he absorbs contact, he gets himself to the free throw line at a very good rate. Over on defense, he's able to stay with different players, guard different positions at different times. It's not as easy to shake him or bump him off as an offensive player. So again, his size really sticks out. Versatility, we've definitely seen here at the NBA level. He showed versatility at the college level as well, where he can play, like I mentioned, most of the season he's been playing a combo guard role, where he's playing alongside Chris Paul. He's playing alongside De'Aaron Fox, alongside Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Julian Champagnie, Trey Jones, just a lot of different players out there on the floor. And he's shown that he can play off ball or on ball, where, he's able to set, when Victor was healthy, he was setting pick and rolls for Victor and kind of rolling, and then Victor would find him on cuts for dunk opportunities, or he could be the lead ball handler in different sets. So again, he's definitely shown his versatility. He's shown his passing skill set, like I mentioned, his driving ability, and then his defense. And then the last thing is his poise, where he doesn't get very frustrated very easily out there on the floor. He kind of always keeps like a very cool, calm composure out there on the floor, whether the Spurs are winning or losing games. And then just something, a comment that just came out from him recently was, after that game against the Thunder, where he scores 32 points, again, his second most points in his NBA career, he was asked about that, and he said, the scoring, he goes, the scoring and stuff is cool, but he wants to win the game. At the end of the day, that's what he's more focused on. Is not really putting up the stats; it's more so winning the game. So again, you just definitely see, even on a good night for him, 32 points, he still was more worried about. He was caring more so about winning the game. And again, that just goes to his character, his poise that I wrote about. That's translating as well from the college level to the NBA level as well. And then lastly, the only knock, again, mainly from his scouting report in college, was his 3-point shooting. And again, that's kind of been the area of focus here at the NBA level, where he's picked up his percentage at least better than the college level. He's had some games where he's made 3 threes in different games. And again, that's something that he's going to continue to work on, he says, and that he's put a lot of work into so far, and that he doesn't want to just focus on makes and misses. He just wants to see that gradual improvement, and again, keep shooting those open threes if they're there for him, like his teammates and his coaching staff have encouraged him to do. Moving on to some news and notes. On Saturday, that was the NBA's playoff eligibility waiver deadline, meaning that if a veteran player wanted to be on a playoff team, they had to be waived by March 1st, Saturday. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of Chris Paul. I had mentioned his name last week, where he was a player to watch in case right now, again, it looks like the Spurs are definitely not headed toward the play-in race. It looks like they're going to end up being in the lottery. And I was interested to see by Saturday, would the Spurs waive Paul and let him go, have the ability to go sign with the playoff team, a contender. But no, Paul ended up staying on the roster past Saturday. But then not only that, on Sunday, post game, Mike Finger, who writes for the San Antonio Express News, said he reported that he asked Paul specifically, are you looking for a buyout from the Spurs? And Paul said no, that he wants to finish out the season with the Spurs. And now, one thing to mention about Paul's contract is that he can still, despite not going to a playoff team and the Spurs not winning 40 plus games probably this season, he can still reach one of his contracting bonuses. So he does have a bonus in his contract where all the Spurs have to do is win 32 games, and he gets a bonus this coming season in his contract. So again, right now they're at 25 wins. They're only 7 wins away from Paul reaching that bonus criteria. And again, there's still 23 opportunities, 23 games left for him to do that. So again, there's still a reason why he's, just in terms of a financial reason, I guess you would say, that the Spurs want to continue, or he at least wants to continue winning ball games to try to get the Spurs to 32 wins so that he can also, that's one of the elements of his contract, just something notable to kind of throw out there. But again, Paul will be on the team for the remainder of the season because even if they waived him, he can no longer sign with a playoff team. Also on Monday, Bismack Biyombo's second 10-day contract expired, making him a free agent for a few hours, because then, right after he became a free agent, the Spurs officially signed him for the rest of the season. We knew this move was coming because Chris Haynes reported a few days ago. So again, Biyombo's going to finish out the season finish out the rest of the season as the Spurs' starting center most likely. And then this coming summer, he'll be a free agent alongside Chris Paul and a few other players there on the Spurs' roster. And then lastly, speaking of Stephon Castle, who I talked about really well, or just talked about his rookie season so far, he's questionable to play on Tuesday against the Brooklyn Nets. The Spurs announced on their injury report that he is dealing with a left thumb sprain. So again, we don't know if Castle will play on Tuesday. He's only missed one game this entire season. So again, Tuesday is the day to watch to see if Castle was able to play in that game against Brooklyn with a left thumb sprain. All right, before I close out this episode, I want to discuss the Spurs' upcoming 3 games for this coming week. So I know that the Spurs had 4 games last week. I feel like there was a game every day, basically. But anyway, they get some time off this week in different segments. So on Tuesday, they resume play against the Brooklyn Nets. They are hosting the Brooklyn Nets in San Antonio. The Nets are 13th in the East. They are 4-6 in their last 10 games. And I'm going to go ahead and predict that the Spurs do beat Brooklyn in this game. However, for tanking reasons, it would actually help if the Spurs lost to the Nets. But again, I don't see that happening. I see the Spurs defeating the Nets on Tuesday. Then the Spurs get 2 days off, Wednesday and Thursday. Then on Friday, they're going to play on the road at Sacramento. That's going to be a big game. It's going to be De'Aaron Fox's first time playing his old team in Sacramento. So again, it'd be a very energetic, emotional game, most likely. The Kings are 9th out west. They are 6-4 in their last 10 games, and I believe Domantas Sabonis is dealing with an injury right now. But I'm still going to go with, just on paper, I think that the Kings do have a better roster right now with the players available on paper, because obviously Wemby's out for the rest of the season. So I'm going to go ahead and say Sacramento wins, and also because the Spurs do typically struggle on the road. So I'll say the Kings win that one. And then on Sunday, the Spurs travel to Minnesota to play the Timberwolves. The Wolves have a as of what time was it that I recorded or gathered this information? As of Monday afternoon, the Wolves had a better record than the Kings. Actually, they were 8th out west, and they are 4-6 in the last 10 games. But I'm still going to go with Minnesota in this game. So I think Minnesota will win this game. Again, the Spurs aren't typically a good team on the road. They struggle there. So again, I'll go with Minnesota in this one. So again, I have the Spurs going 1-2 in my prediction for this upcoming week. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Spotted Pod. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a rating on your favorite podcast apps and our YouTube channel. The Spotted Pod is recorded and produced by Paul Garcia. The music for this episode was written by Vincent Garcia and Paul Garcia. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.